Here's the thing. Birds are real, and it's mean to say that they're not. Per usual, I'm Keish.
I'm Sam.
We have a special third guest on today.
We do.
Hey everyone, this is me, Ryan Mayer.
Ryan Mayer, the mayor himself.
Been a
Dr.
little
Mayer,
while.
some call him.
He doxed himself, so you can't blame us there.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, welcome. Ryan is a guest we've wanted to have on all season.
He has a very busy schedule.
Very busy schedule. He's a really big deal in the birding community as well as the other animals community. We'll get into that.
Yes,
But
that's true.
I know Ryan from elementary school. We met in fifth grade. The very first day of fifth grade, we had an assignment, which was we were randomly given two people in the class, and we had to go up to them and write down two fun facts about them. So I went up to Ryan, who was brand new to the school. I said, "Hey, what's your deal?" Right? And so Ryan said, "Number one, I'm from Florida, and number two, I can communicate with people from the eighth dimension." Still talking to them? How's that
Yeah,
going?
every time I feel like every time I see you, you always talk about the eighth dimension, and I don't think I've been ready to admit this until now, but I might have been stretching the truth a little bit there to gain some popularity.
Uh,
Sixth dimension.
Sixth
what?
dimension's reasonable,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Ryan,
yeah.
that's the whole reason I brought you on the podcast.
Well, I mean, I guess it wasn't really a lie because when you think about the people from Florida, they're more or less from the eighth dimension. So I guess I was truthful there, but
All you Floridians, let us know if that's true.
Well, unfortunately, we had to let Ryan go from the podcast because he did lie to me when we were 10.
Yep.
that's true.
Uh,
All right. Thanks for having me on. See
yeah,
everyone later.
thanks, Ryan. Good episode ever. I'm just kidding. He's here, and that's because, well, as Ryan alluded to, whenever we talk, I bring up this story, and that's because I'm a storyteller, and I tell the same stories over and over and over again. And one of the things that I do when I tell stories, especially to people that I did not grow up with, about people that I did grow up with, is I give them snappy names, right? So Ryan, when I talk about him to my non-Connecticut friends, I call him Salamander Ryan because
Oh, this is
this is
Salamander
Salamander
Ryan.
Ryan.
Okay.
That's pretty fitting. I feel like
Yeah.
that's like most, whenever my mom talks about me to anyone, he's into salamanders or whatever. It's kind of become
Yeah, dude,
my
I
my
didn't know
whole
this was
thing.
the Salamander
This
Ryan.
is the
This is an
Salamander
honor.
Ryan. This is so Ryan, I don't know if I've told you this, but we went out on a hike. Do you remember this hike we went on? It was during college in the summer. We went
No.
to somewhere in like northern, we went to somewhere in northern Connecticut. We got out of the car and it started pouring
Oh,
rain.
yeah, Bigelow Hollow State
Bigelow
Park.
Oh, I
Hollow.
love Bigelow Hollow.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
Bigelow
know?
mean,
Hollow,
I'm
yeah.
close enough there from Massachusetts.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we went there. Ryan, do you remember the very cool animal that we saw?
I do remember not only the cool animal that we saw, but also the interesting context that we found it in, which was
Hmm.
pretty cool. It was in a swamp and it was a porcupine.
It was a porcupine.
Is there any more to this swamp porcupine
Well,
story?
yes. Okay. So we're out there. It's the middle of the day. Porcupines are nocturnal, right?
Hmm. I actually didn't
Um,
know that.
I
Interesting.
didn't know
and
that either,
so
actually.
maybe I made that up. But like we're there and it's like kind of drizzling and then it just starts pouring rain and it gets so dark. And so I always thought like, oh, this porcupine just thought it was nighttime, so it came wandering out
That
for a
makes
second.
sense. Yeah, I believe it. I feel like most things are at least a little nocturnal, maybe
Hmm.
maybe crepuscular, if you
I
may.
was, I mean, given it was a porcupine story, I thought something was gonna get poked, but no.
No, no, it didn't care about us, just walked right on by. We were like huddled under a tree because I mean it was pouring really hard. But trees are great natural umbrellas, let me tell you
It's
that
true.
much.
Especially
Yeah.
the great hemlock trees of Bigelow Hollow support a
So
variety of birds.
so why do I call you Salamander Ryan? Can you inform the listeners?
Well, I did that to myself by making that most of my personality for the past getting close to 10 years now, pretty much ever since I started my college education. I don't know why, but I decided as an undergrad student to switch from engineering and start studying ecology and instantly started studying salamanders, which is, as we all know, a very lucrative trade. So really good
Sick.
financial decision there.
Hey, I studied film, so you're doing
I
better than
mean,
me.
hey, we all gotta study something. So yeah, that was a decision. And then I've made that more or less the rest of my life. Starting to, I mean, now that I'm out of school, it's starting to branch out a little bit into different directions. But, I went to grad school and studied salamanders, the same species of salamander, red-backed salamander, the most common salamander on the East Coast, at least. So yeah, I've made a good few years out of that, and then just kind of became unhealthily obsessed in the same way many birders are about finding, cool species of birds. I've been obsessed with finding all sorts of various little species of critters.
Love it.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
when we were at Bigelow Hollow, I said to Ryan, I said, "Hey, you got to show me how to find a salamander because I've been looking for salamanders. I can't find a single one." And Ryan said, "Hey, you see this piece of bark on the ground? Flip it over. There's going to be like two salamanders there." And I did, and there were two salamanders right there. And
I
I
don't
thought,
remember that,
wow,
but that's sick.
yeah, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. So then I went and saw Quiche like a month later, I think, up in
Really, that was
Massachusetts.
all in the in that
Hmm.
same time period. Okay.
Yep. And we went to just a nice little pond near him. Quiche
Hmm.
mentioned it in the
Yeah,
last
last
episode.
episode, Westville Lake.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, you want to see a salamander?" And he was like, "What? Yeah, I mean, I guess." And then I flipped over a piece of bark, and there were two salamanders
Yeah,
right
dude,
there.
everyone went crazy.
Yeah,
That was insane.
it was
Wow.
so sick. So
Those two salamanders, I think, are paid actors.
I think
They're the
so. I
same
mean,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
moved all the way. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Um,
Glad I could teach,
yeah.
spread my knowledge a little bit
It's
on
a
how
neat
to.
party trick. Just you flip something over, there's two salamanders.
I know.
A little bit of luck
Anytime I,
involved, but also,
Mhm. What was the species of salamander again?
the redback salamander.
Redback salamander. Is that like the pretty typical common one?
Yeah,
And
they're like,
yeah.
there's been a recent study, I think by US Geological Society, that found, I forget the exact densities per hectare, but the biomass of just this one species of salamander is so high that some people even suspect that per hectare there could be greater biomass of redback salamanders than deer. I think. I might be
Yeah, that's
misquoting
that's
that.
wild.
But
Yeah.
I took a brief glance at the study. There's been a couple studies on the density of them, but it's just an absurd level of density. Pretty easy to
Yeah,
find when you actually know where they are.
the facts about this, like the local biomass of like a certain species, is like there's like a lot of crazy facts. I think ants a lot of the time are make up like a significant amount of the biomass.
mm.
I think I saw somewhere that 40 to 50% of all of the ocean's biomass is just jellyfish. Cut that out
Yeah,
if I'm
I would
wrong.
not be surprised. Yeah.
That's
Is
awesome.
isn't that insane?
That's so good. Wow. But jellyfish are like nothing. Like they don't even have brains. Like they just kind of
They're like mostly
like
water.
plastic bags. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is that cheating if they're already mostly water in water? It's like,
So that's a good point.
So we have this great guest with us, and that's great news for our field notes section because we recorded this episode very close to when we recorded our last episode,
Hmm.
and I have not gone birding.
I also haven't. I've also been a little sick, so sorry if I sound a little nasally. I really said I was like, "Hey Sam, let's postpone the pod for a week. I'm really not feeling great." And he told me to shut up and record the pod. I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, I don't care about your health. Just re record the pod, dude." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
This is why this is the season finale. I've had Quiche like locked up in a room, like, in my basement.
Yeah, you guys ever seen Breaking Bad
Yeah.
and last season where they had Jesse in that thing? That's
Hmm.
basically me this
Yeah. I
past.
bring him out anytime I need the podcast and then just put him back there. So,
Yeah, so I'll be free after this, so
yeah.
that's good. Yeah.
Go home, see your family. But Ryan, do you have some field notes for us?
I have plenty of field notes. Now, luckily for listeners that are actually interested in birds, which I would assume is most of them, it's winter time, so all the critters that I normally look for are not as abundant, or they're just, way underground or wherever they go. So I've unfortunately had to resort to the greatest sin, which is, of course, birding.
The
As
eighth
many
sin,
would
some
not,
call it.
many on this podcast would not agree with me, or maybe they would, but I, try to hold off on birding as long as I possibly can. But it's that time of year. There's all sorts of good stuff out and about. So recently I went home to Connecticut, greatest state in the nation, some say.
Some do say.
And then, well, then I guess while I was home, I went over to Rhode Island. So that's kind of, anyways. So I went over to Rhode Island because where I am, I'm not too coastal where I am usually. So I went over to a nice little wildlife refuge in Rhode Island, and it's a great place. It's called Statuus Point, I believe, and they have just an abundance and a diversity of all sorts of really cool waterfowl and peeps, I believe I learned from this podcast, as they're called,
Hmm.
Well,
along with.
actually, Ryan, what genus are they? Because it's very specific.
Ooh, yeah,
I'm just kidding. We count everything as peeps. So,
yeah,
Calidris, if the listeners remember from that one
yeah,
episode, whenever back.
with the angry guy, is that right?
yeah.
Yeah, with the angry guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so they got everything. And then it's beautiful sort of coastal prairie with, goldenrod and all sorts of other forb and grass species forming these nice sort of fields. So you also get in late summer these beautiful like goldfinch flocks and waxwing flocks all through there. Really cool place. So I went with my family and just to see what was over there. Now, also each year there's a resident snowy owl that migrates down. I didn't see it
Ooh.
this year. I've seen it in the past. I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't feel good to see it. Like it's incredible to see it because it's this beautiful animal. But you go there and there's like one stick in the field that's just this dead snag of a tree, and he's just there. And it's like 50 other birders that are like, getting way too close that birding ethics should not allow. And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just standing there. It's wonderful to see because it's this awesome animal that's migrated, probably like 1,000 miles or whatever. And checked that one off my list. But I'm also like, man, it would have been cool to see this in some habitat. So yeah, I didn't see that this time, probably too early in the year. So that meant there were less birders there, and I got to see some other really cool birds that I had honestly never even heard of. I saw a common eider,
Nice.
which
Oh,
is some northerny water duck, I guess.
Yeah,
That's probably offensive to those that know what it actually is. I did see a harlequin duck, which I believe is an actual duck.
that is. Yeah,
yep.
that one's sick.
That one was very cool. I saw scoters. I saw some buffleheads. Oh, and then I think the coolest thing that I saw, and there were many of them, were these red-throated loons, which
Wow.
were I had never heard of. I had seen common loons out while I was working on some seasonal positions out on doing some limnology, some lake work in Connecticut. I had never heard of the red-throated loons, and they were so easy to see. They were everywhere. It felt like cheating, and apparently they're not as common compared to the other birds there. So that was really cool to see, and it was really cool to just watch their behavior as they just kind of dived down into the waves and stuff. It was really interesting. So
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
almost every species of waterfowl that Ryan just mentioned, I quote unquote was supposed to see at Lake Quabbin, but I saw the one singular common loon. I was really hoping to see the red-throated loon, so I guess I'm glad you saw them, Ryan. But
Yeah. It's all luck, It's they
yeah.
must have just went right down the coast or whatever. But
Hmm.
either way, if either of you are back in the great region of New England, some say the best region in the country,
Some do say.
Hmm.
I highly recommend this place because it's beautiful there. It's worth it even if you just don't see anything because out there you just get clearer, bluer, greener water. It just looks almost Arctic the way the waves crash in. It's near Newport. So it's beautiful out there and it's really great for birding. Every time I go, I see something that's just new to me. So highly recommend.
That's
Just
awesome. And the eiders look kind of strange too.
yeah, it's like a duck, and then like if the duck were made out of Play-Doh
Yeah.
and it like cured too long, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a little funky looking. I always appreciate some of the more funky, silly looking birds. I feel like, those are the
Scoters look
ones I
weird
really go
too.
for.
Yeah, yeah, those are the best. Well, I'm very excited to. I'm in theory going back to the great region of New England, which some say is the best region in the nation. I didn't know this place existed. I would love to go there.
Yeah, same here.
I can
Ryan,
send you a link.
how were you viewing these birds? Did you have binoculars or?
Yeah, I think they do have a fun little, you don't even need to bring your own quarters. They made it free, but those little
Oh.
telescope stations, I think they have just one, maybe two. So that's good. And they're way more high powered than my little binoculars. But yeah, I brought small pair of binoculars that I recently picked up, and that did the trick. I was able to ID most of them. They're pretty much right off the it's basically fields and then just sort of this short span of rocky coast, and then there's like a bunch of, rocks protruding out of the ocean and where the waves break and everything. You can see all sorts of cormorants and other really beautiful birds just out there. I can't ID like half of them, but I'm sure they're rare, or maybe not rare, but fun to find, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
bring a pair of binoculars and head out there. It's awesome.
Wow. That's great. That's great. And thank you for saving our field notes section. I was going to go off about how I went to the park that's like 2 blocks away from me like 4 times, and I saw ruddy ducks each time. And I love ruddy ducks, but it's not a very interesting thing to say on the podcast where I've mentioned how much I love ruddy ducks a lot.
Still pretty
Do
interesting. I don't really know what a ruddy duck even looks like, so that's, it just goes to show perspective. It's
Yeah,
interesting to me.
tiny little duck with a blue bill. Pretty nice. Well, I think that brings us to our hoot topic of the day.
hmm
And Ryan has come prepared with a hoot topic for us.
So yeah, I was looking at my globe that I have here, that some random person off of Facebook Marketplace gave me. And on the globe, there's some weird little swirly like ruler thing. I'm sure it's used for some charting or navigation or scale, but it looked like a little loop-de-loop. So I was thinking, if you were a bird, a migratory bird that is, where would you choose your migration route to be?
It's a great question.
It is a really good question.
Kind of calls back to episode 2 of this very podcast where we talked about migration. Brings it all together in a nice way.
Hmm.
This episode will bring a lot of closure to our listeners who have been here with us the whole time. My initial thought is as a human that has gotten older and as a human who has gotten fatter, I don't do so well in warm climates these days. I really like the cold. It's like below freezing these days, and I love it. Can't get enough of it. So I think I would summer in somewhere quite cold,
Oh.
perhaps Greenland or something. I like my space. I'm a little shy, I'm just a shy little guy. Greenland I feel like would be a nice place to take my summers. Maybe I'd see some aurora borealis, I don't know. And then as it starts getting really cold there, I'd make my way down. I might stop off in like Ireland or Scotland, hang out with some puffins for a little bit. I feel like that would kind of up my cred if I'm hanging out with puffins, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's true.
Dead of winter, I feel like I probably wouldn't end up staying in the equator because it's just too hot, I think, for me.
Mhm.
But I would probably stop over somewhere. Maybe I might cross the Atlantic for a Caribbean island.
Little fancy zigzag.
Little stop over there. And then I think I'd go down and I would want to be in Chile because I read this book once about the striated caracara. They're all over there and they're like the coolest bird I've ever like heard of. So I'd want to just kind of see how they go about their business.
A caracara is a type of raptor, maybe a type of falcon.
Kind of, it's like a falcon and a crow mixed.
Huh.
Yeah,
Do we get any in I know there's some in Mexico. Do we get any in the US?
not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. And then how would I get back to Greenland? No idea. But maybe just go back the way I came. I don't know.
That sounds pretty cool.
Sounds pretty decent.
Ireland might be the only outlier there. You're kind of going way, way east. Not to judge, everyone has their own route in life, and so
Basically.
it's really artistic, what you're doing. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think I'll call it courageous, to go over to Ireland and then all the way back west.
Maybe the winds are helping him along the way.
Yeah.
That's
We
true.
don't know. We could know if we looked it up, but
It's
we don't
true.
know.
I've never claimed to be good at geography. In my mind, that was a straight line all the way down. Depending
Yeah,
on how you like orient your map, I feel like maybe.
that's true. Well, into like maybe a little Mobius strip or something like
Yeah.
that. I think I would go probably start Antarctica for summer,
Yeah.
right below New Zealand. Because then you got Antarctica, you're really braving the elements. And then as it gets even colder, so our summer, wait, no, our winter, it doesn't matter. I'm flying north, I'm going to New Zealand. I'm spending some time in their mountains. I've never been, but I have watched Lord of the Rings and it's pretty
Cool.
there.
I've
So
also
I'm
watched
gonna
that.
gonna explore New Zealand. I'm gonna say hi to all of my terrestrial bird friends that, of course, inhabit New Zealand because they have a large, abundance of terrestrial birds to take the place of the non-existent mammal population. Then I'm going to Australia because it's Australia. It just sounds fun. And then I'm gonna spend my winter somewhere in New Guinea or maybe Indonesia. I don't really know the geography of that region too well, but there's lots of different islands. I feel like each year I could just try something new,
Ooh,
see what's stuck.
Nice, nice,
keeping it
nice.
pretty compact there. That's maybe a better idea than going across the Atlantic 3 times. But
No, I think yours is, as I said, brave.
I think going back to my answer from last episode, I think I would start. I'm gonna go with the extremes here. I think I'd do my winter in Australia in Alaska
nice.
with my other migratory shorebirds, my other peeps and whatnot. I think it'd be nice to just be in the presence of all these hardcore migratory birds that are going like 70 miles per hour on average and
Inspiring.
inspiring, exactly. Like I want to be in awe of them.
Yeah.
And then might hug the US coast along the way down. I was gonna say hug the US coast and then stop in Hawaii, and then I thought about how that's not close.
Hawaii is not just in a little box right off the coast
It's
of California.
it's not just in a little box. Yeah, scratch the hugging the coast thing. I'll go to Hawaii
Nice.
to, see all these birds that, don't really go much elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'd do there. And then I'd go down to the Andes Mountains
Yeah.
in South America.
Hmm.
I'd love to just sit on a mountaintop and look out
Yeah.
over everything.
That's deep.
Yeah.
I feel like that
Um,
closely reflects real life with you two ending up together and
Yeah.
me somewhere across the world.
wow.
Wow.
Very deep from Ryan here. And then, when in South America, I'm just gonna go to the Amazon rainforest and
Ooh.
also check out all the birds there in the summer.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when it's popping.
Hmm. Yeah, you got to see those dances.
Oh, the mating dances. Maybe I can participate if they'd let me.
If
Oh.
you're feeling a little wild.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be a great migratory route. Would it be logical? Maybe not, but this is my dream route, and that's what it's gonna be.
Well, that feels good. I feel like that's three very different routes, but three very good routes, you know? We
Hmm.
could all then FaceTime and like talk about what we saw. Thank you, Ryan. That was a good question. Listeners at home, come up with your own routes, use Microsoft Paint and draw it on like a map and then email that to us.
PNGs only will be accepted.
Yeah, no JPEGs.
Yep.
Get out of here with that. So, main topic, okay? I'm going to start by reading a passage from a book that I have mentioned on a previous episode, I think way back, maybe episode 2 or something. This is from Christian Cooper's book, Better Living Through Birding. What makes birding such a phenomenon? Why not mammaling or insecting? Certainly, those pursuits have their adherents, as the thousands who visit Africa on safari or who catalog butterflies can attest. Birding, however, occupies a sweet spot of accessibility. The variety of birds, no matter where you are around the globe or what kind of place you're in, city, suburb, country, mountains, woodland, field, swamp, shore, or out to sea, greatly exceeds the limited number of species of mammals in the same area. Bugs, on the other hand, present the opposite problem. The crazy profusion of insect species is nigh impossible to master, or else in temperate climes in the winter time there are almost none at all. With birds, no matter the time of year, there's always something to see. So, Ryan, as we've established, you're our resident amphibianer.
It's true.
Um, there's a better name for that, right? Like what do you call what you do?
Well, that's the unfortunate part. We call the study of amphibians and reptiles herpetology.
Ah,
Now,
I
the
knew it.
usual
I knew it.
reaction for everyone that hears that is, herpes, which is rather unfortunate. The great thing about that is I can't even take like the high ground because I think it's Latin, it might be Greek root for that is herp, which is to crawl. So they both share that similar meaning. But yeah, so we would call it herping is the activity of, locating those animals. Yeah.
Perfect. Nice. To our listeners at home, I did kind of know the answer to this question because Ryan has an excellent Instagram page called, I believe, Herps of Instagram. Is that it? Am I wrong
It's
about
close. It's plethodontid,
that? Never
because
mind.
I came up with that. It's a specific family of salamanders, Plethodontidae. So I just made it dude. That's probably got to change soon, though. I've had it for 7 years at this point. So
But you often will do like a hashtag herps of Instagram. Is that
yes,
right?
that is
Yes.
correct. That's the largest hashtag revolving around herps. So in an attempt for me to get famous, I always
Nice.
add that on. Doesn't work, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I just followed Ryan. A lot of herps for
Yeah.
all you people that are into that.
hmm How do you feel about this passage from the book? Like, do you agree with it? Are you out there trying to find salamanders in the winter? I know you kind of said no, but
it's actually something I'm incredibly passionate about. So yeah, I mean, I think to answer your second question first, yeah, I try to extend my herping season as long as possible, and I think part of the fun of extending that season is finding animals in situations where you usually wouldn't. And I think that translates also into birding. I remember when I lived in Ohio, everyone was freaking out because there was a brown booby that was found
ooh,
in Lake Erie, and then a few days later, it was found decapitated by a hawk, I believe. So that was
Oh my.
kind of a fun experience. But that's sort of a unique situation where you find this animal that you wouldn't normally find. It's similar to me trying to flip a log, end of November and being stoked at finding even, a common amphibian or something like that. So yeah, I try to do that as ethically as possible, at least. I don't want to disturb them if they're, at the end of their season. But to get back to the passage, yeah, I mean, it's something I've always kind of wondered about. We have birding as this hobby that is this institution. It's been established. Generally, you hit the age of 30. You guys are a little early, but 30
Mhm.
is usually when you get there and you just start birding. And then similarly, there's fishing, which has been a thing for as long as ever. And, that's a little bit more involved just because it, involves actually casting, using a rod to actually catch the fish. But that's another hobby. So I think there are these sorts of like different amounts of effort that you need to put in. Not necessarily effort, but I guess just involved gear and materials and stuff. But it is interesting for herpetology specifically. It's actually quite easy to go out into the woods or into a field or wherever you want to go and just flip some rocks. It's free. You can do it for most of the year. And worst case scenario is you find a bug and you get into entomology instead. So, but more often than not, if you spend an hour or two out there just flipping some logs, flipping some rocks, you're gonna find something that you might not have even heard of before. So,
I mean, very cool. I hear what you're saying. So like Christian Cooper in the book does have kind of a thought process behind why is it birds specifically and not like other animals beyond just like the abundance of birds kind of wherever you are. I'm paraphrasing this time, I'm not reading right from it, but one of the reasons is that birds in particular kind of relate to the world with their senses in the same way that we do,
Mhm.
more so than other mammals do, especially like if you're thinking dogs, cats, things like that. Those animals have a lot of biological area of their body as well as like brain power dedicated to identifying things via smell. They really rely on smell. They can like smell diseases in people, I feel like I've heard. Whereas us, like we can smell food, we can smell if someone stinks, but like we can't really glean that much information from it. And that's similar to birds. Talked last episode about beaks or bills and nares, nostrils, right? Birds don't have a great sense of smell. They can smell. Shout out Audubon, you were wrong. But they mostly rely on sight and sound, which is same way we do, right? In case you ever try to find a bird by smell.
I haven't, but it sounds like a tough job
I think it
to
is.
do so.
I think maybe like Canada geese, maybe I've smelled those before.
Oh, I think their excrement, if I'm allowed to say that, has
We
a
might have to mark this as explicit on the podcast.
if you've been around a lot of it, I think it does have its own certain smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Keish, pretend you're in Psych 101. All right. It's
Okay.
your midterm. Your task is to psychoanalyze yourself.
Mm.
Why do you like birds?
Why do I like birds?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't give the correct answer here. Like my actual truthful answer because I think it's silly.
This is a safe place. No one's going to hear
I
this.
don't know.
What do you
No,
think
no,
this
dude,
is? A
I
podcast?
want to get canceled for this. The underlying part of this, or like maybe what got me into it initially, like the kind of thing that like grabbed me
hmm
into the hobby was it sounds kind of like Gen Z iPad kid brain, but I loved adding new birds to my life list. I loved
Yeah,
collecting, a new sighting, recording it. We used to play Pokemon Go. I think Sam maybe still does.
I still do.
But people got obsessed with Pokemon Go. I was one of them, and it's just the rush of catching something new or getting something new. And I think like for worse, I was gonna say for better or for worse, probably for worse. My brain is wired like that somewhat. So I don't know. I love seeing a new lifer. I love, just having new experiences, which I guess is not a bad thing. I think that's what got me into it. And after doing birding for a long time, I mean, even starting this podcast, doing the photography, I mean, I could go on and on. There's a bunch of reasons why
Hmm.
I'm into it now. What was the original question?
Like, do you think it's because you don't have a great sense of smell?
So like relating it back into like how we're kind of similar to birds in the way we like observe the world or interact with the world. We may have mentioned this on an earlier podcast, or maybe we were just talking about it off the air, but the bird calls definitely are something unique to birds that, humans speak to each other through vocalization. And I feel like vocalization is a big part of how birds, their whole like essence, right? Like,
Hmm.
you hear bird songs, stuff like that. Like, other mammals definitely do. Like you can hear like foxes making like weird like noises with
They
their,
scream. Let
they
me
do
tell you
scream.
what. 2
Um,
a.m. one was like running down the street screaming. It scared me so bad.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe salamanders scream too in their own little way that we can't detect with our ears. Ryan can probably enlighten us on that. But I feel like, there's that aspect of birds. There's
Mhm.
the ubiquity aspect. There's the different colors. People like colors. I don't know.
Yeah. Ryan, put yourself in the armchair, right? Psych 101. What is it about herps that does it for you?
It is the exact same reason. It's the same exact thing. I think it's like a healthy dose of knowing that I can increase my skills within this little hobby, just as anyone else can with birding or fishing or whatever they're doing. So that there is a level of, I can work my way up, but also that luck factor that is involved and just adding to like this lifer list, something that I've never seen before is it's a weird thing that can lead to sort of an obsession. And I have to imagine if I wasn't into herping, I'd probably be like a big gambler because it just scratches that itch of like, let's go out there and each log, is like me at the slot machine, which sounds like so lame, but it's like flip a log, nothing. Flip a log, a little isopod or some little freak of an insect, and you're like, gross, but at least like you didn't fully lose. And then
Mhm.
you flip something and you find something really cool, and it's just, after probably 400 more flips or whatever, but it's just that luck factor that's involved and just the chance of finding something that you've just never seen before.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting. I've often said in my life, and most people who know me have said that if I started gambling, I would get addicted instantly. So it's nice to know that that's because I like birds and
I think
I
I
like
think that's it.
amphibians too. So
No, I think Ryan put that in a very good way. I do want to highlight that skills aspect, and I think that also translates into the photography that we do.
mhm.
We do it
Mhm.
for our own self-fulfillment and stuff anyway. But we also do want to get better, and
Yeah.
it's something that you can get better at over time. So it's good to like build towards something like Ryan said.
Yeah. So Ryan, do you keep a life list of like herps?
Mentally, I do,
Nice.
which is not like a very good organized way to do it, but it kind of I guess I do have like a wildlife photography folder,
Mhm.
but that has so many duplicates and everything like that, so I don't have like an ongoing list. But I think given the sort of lack of diversity of herps, I should say, in the northern latitudes, or at least northern US, it's much easier to keep that ongoing list than birds. Or if
Hmm.
you're in the south, where like you can flip a rock and just get like three lifers just like that. So
That
I
makes
probably should
sense.
start one, but no, I don't have a physical list right now.
Mhm.
I have a question for Ryan. I thought this related, maybe it's a little separate topic, but through different seasons, birds have different plumages, stuff like that, and it's hard for us to identify them. Is there a similar thing with herps? Like, I'm thinking of environmental science class this one time. We were flipping, we were rocks and stuff. We saw a bunch of these redback salamanders, but then we saw this one that was black with like yellow dots, and I think that one
Mhm.
was supposed to be a little bit of a rarer one. But if the herps go into like different molts and stuff, do they look like significantly different? Is it ever hard to identify them?
Yes, sort of. So a lot of them, like you said, like a lot of snakes will be, as we call it, in shed. They'll be in the process of shedding their skin. that can kind of mess with their, pattern, and make it a little bit more difficult to identify seasonally, at least for like salamanders and stuff like that. I can't really think of any that super change on a seasonal basis. However, that is a great question because at least throughout the course of their life, they often go through many changes. So,
Mhm.
obviously the big one that everyone knows about are tadpoles, right? And then frogs. Tadpole identification is notoriously like insanely difficult. People get okay at it, but it's one of those things that like you'll ask online and people be like, I have no idea. Same with larval salamanders. If you are, anywhere in the eastern US and you go to a stream and you flip a rock or just like even look in the water, a lot of times you can find like little tiny larval salamanders with the external gills and everything, and they'll be like an inch long. And there's just no way you can ID those until they become, fully mature adults, really. So yeah, so
Mhm.
in a sense there are. It's not as, it's not like they lose the plumage, but yeah. And then I think frogs, probably especially more tropical frogs, probably have some seasonal variation, I would say. I'm not too familiar with any species that might do that, but I would imagine that some would probably change color as they get into breeding season and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I
Cool.
feel like there's a lot of similarities between amphibians and birds and stuff. Like we're talking about, like we kind of look at them for the same reasons, right? And like if you think about it, you take a robin, you take a newt, that's the same animal, right?
That's true.
A robin's a bird. Birds are basically dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are basically lizards, and newts are like wet lizards without scales. So
That's correct. Yeah.
You're pretty much there. Yeah.
that's fewer degrees of separation than like me and Kevin Bacon.
That's true.
You know the Kevin Bacon thing where like everyone in the world is like 7 degrees of separation or less away from Kevin Bacon?
I didn't know it was in terms of specifically Kevin Bacon. I just thought it was like you're 7 degrees separated from anyone.
I think it was introduced to me as like the Kevin Bacon rule.
I've also heard the Kevin Bacon rule. I feel like there's probably like one poor soul that's just like 8 degrees away and he's just like left out somewhere in the corner, you know? Imagine being that guy.
So this is the big finale, right? It's like a celebration of everything we've done here in season one. So I'm trying to relate this to as many previous episodes as I can. So Keish, I know you did some research a couple episodes ago about symbiotic relationships.
Hmm.
And Ryan, you're a very smart person. Do either of you know about like any symbiotic relationships that involve amphibians?
I'm not too familiar, but I do remember reading, I think it was actually work being done at UConn from, of course, University of Connecticut, in Connecticut, which is some regard as the greatest state in the nation.
Some do.
Um, but I believe I might be wrong. It's probably like some other university in like Tennessee. I think they were examining some symbiotic relationship of algae in spotted salamander eggs. I think I might be wrong.
I think you're right.
But I
I saw
believe there
this when I
was
did some
some,
research.
yeah, I think there was some form, and this is about as far as my knowledge goes on this, but I think there was some form of like, energy transfer between them, using the algae as food resources or something like that. But I don't know why the algae would be there.
That sounds like a really cool interaction there.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's actually one that's probably a bit more widely shared online is down in Texas, I believe you can actually see it, in probably Mexico, maybe South America. There's these really stupid little frogs called narrow-mouthed toads. I think that's Rhinosomatidae. I forget, but yeah, they look so dumb. It's actually crazy. Like they shouldn't exist. They're these tiny little frogs with like eyes really close to the front of their head. And they have at least I've heard it described as a symbiotic relationship with tarantulas.
Mhm.
And that the tarantulas will burrow and they'll lay their eggs and they'll basically provide protection over these stupid little frogs because these tiny little frogs will eat like ants and other
Mhm.
small tiny insects that the tarantula really can't do anything about because those things will eat the tarantula's eggs. So if you Google it, you can find some really absurd pictures of like this horrifying tarantula just standing over like the dumbest little creature you've ever seen. It's kind of adorable.
Ryan, you are so smart. Those were like two of the examples that I pulled to talk
Oh,
about.
sick. One.
Incredible. I was trying to find one that was like between an amphibian and a bird. I thought that would be fun.
That
Hmm.
that one seems tough.
It was
Yeah.
tough. I couldn't find anything, but I did find one that might sound a bit familiar if you've listened to our episode from a couple weeks ago, the
Mhm.
Mafia hypothesis. But so there's this type of frog. Frogs seem to be pretty symbiotic little guys. They're kind of involved in all of these. He's called the marsh frog,
Mm,
and he'll climb onto an Anatolian water buffalo and just sit there and chow down on flies. What
nice.
does that remind you of?
Reminds me of the red-billed oxpecker.
Cattle egret too, right?
Oh yeah, and the cattle eater. Good call.
So this all lends to my theory that amphibians and birds are the same thing, right? I mean,
True.
have either of you ever seen a cattle egret and a marsh frog in the same room? I don't think so.
That's a good
Yeah,
point. I
back
can't
in
really
98. No, I'm just
Yeah, when you were one.
when you were born.
yeah, crazy year.
Okay, so I think we've like kind of like conclusively established that this frankly groundbreaking hypothesis of mine that birds and amphibians are the same is correct, right?
Yeah.
Are you not convinced yet?
I mean, they both
Listeners at
sing.
home?
They both make noise. Like
That's
you
true.
literally, that's all you need.
I will submit to you all one final piece of evidence on this. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on the American bullfrog?
That's a really loaded question. You know, I think here in America, where I'm located in America, I have no choice but to stand because it's in the name, American and then bull and then frog, like all three of those things are just incredible. It's maybe the largest species in the US. I
It
don't
is.
actually know if that's true, but yeah, that
It is.
sounds
Mhm.
right. And yeah, it's native around here. It gets big, it gets green. It eats like mice, I think, or it probably could. If I was elsewhere in the world where it has established non-native populations that are doing great, which just goes to show what a titan of a species it is, then I might hate it. But being where I am, I have to love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen that it's an invasive species elsewhere, and it's like it's kind of a apex, species here. So elsewhere,
Mhm.
it's like really wrecking havoc and doing its thing.
Yeah. Well, so here's something about it, right? Ryan, like you mentioned, here in America, especially on the East Coast here, you've probably all seen a bullfrog. If you haven't, you've definitely heard a bullfrog,
Mm.
right? Or like if you're a dog, you've smelled one. But it sounds like if you say bonk, but instead of pushing air out of your lungs, you're like inhaling while you say it. Bonk, kind of like that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's
I
really
was way off.
it's really hard to do that.
No, dude, I can't
But
do
then like
that.
they also make this sound like they're a car that's like revving up. Like I
Mm.
hear every single night outside my door. But like a car that's like an eighth the size and sound of like a normal car. So it's like a
Mm.
little quiet. But like in my mind, like that's a frog, right? If like I think of frog, like the platonic ideal, like the word frog and then the picture of a bullfrog appears in my mind, right?
Hmm.
But so here's the thing, we have mentioned that they are invasive around other parts of the world, right? But they have something in common with our oldest friend on this podcast, the European starling. And that's that the American bullfrog is an invasive species in the United States. Does anything sound weird about that?
Yeah, the American bullfrog is an invasive species in the US of
Yeah.
A.
Here's the tricky part, right? They're invasive to the United States, but they are also native to the United States. And this is because of two things. One, the United States is very large.
Mm.
And two, the American bullfrog cannot fly. So we are here in the eastern United States, and these
Sure.
bullfrogs are native. They're natural, right? They have their swamps, their ponds, lily pads. Like this is kind of where they fit in. But they were not found in the western United States, which over there, at least in like the kind of like Colorado, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, mountainy area, dry
Hmm.
area, there's really not much water. There's not much grass. Like the color green doesn't exist out there. Bullfrogs also did not exist out there. They were introduced there on purpose in the early 1900s, but as far as I can tell, it was not due to bardolatry or an excessive admiration for any playwright. Instead, they were brought out west as a means of biological control, which is like a scary way of saying that people wanted them to eat bugs.
Mm. I'm glad the East Coast has claim to the American bullfrog being native. I
Hmm.
think
Yeah,
that's just
that
another reason to stand the East Coast,
that feels really good. Yeah,
Some say the best coast.
some
that's
say.
true.
Ryan, what's the difference between a toad and a frog?
Ooh, that's a fun little fact. So this might be a little mind blowing, but toads are frogs.
It's
Oh,
like a
But
square and a
frogs,
rectangle.
uh,
it always goes back to the square and the rectangle, doesn't it? And it's the same for newts and salamanders.
oh, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Newts are salamanders. Kind of
Wow.
upsetting, but yeah. No, that's how it works. It's just a family of frog, Bufonidae, I believe, unless they changed
Very
it.
cool.
But yeah,
What about axolotls? Are those salamanders?
those are in fact salamanders,
Wow,
a very
Hmm.
unique species of
very cool.
salamander.
What about I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. What's it? Is it Caecilian?
Oh yeah,
Caecilian?
to be honest, I don't know how to pronounce it. I always say Sicilian, but that's
Mm.
also sometimes I say it fast and it's just Sicilian. And that's just Italian. Anyways, yeah, and that's like the third little redheaded stepchild of the amphibian realm that no one really knows about, but they're and then if you like Google them, you get like a kind of oddly graphic picture that you just kind of don't want to look at because it was like a trend in like 2012 and anyways. So yeah, that's the difference between toads and frogs.
Groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, people wanted bullfrogs to eat bugs out west because there are a lot of like grasshoppers, like bugs that are kind of bad for like food, which is already pretty hard to grow out west. The bullfrogs did what they were supposed to do. They ate bugs. They ate more bugs. They ate so many more bugs. They ate so many bugs, like way more than people thought they were going to eat. And then they also ate other amphibians.
Ooh,
And then they also ate baby snakes. And then they also ate mice. And then they also ate birds.
a frog eating a bird is
Yeah.
that's a wild picture to think about.
hmm So the people who introduced the bullfrog to the West, they realized something that just about everyone who introduced an invasive species eventually realizes. They made a mistake.
Mm.
Bullfrogs are very good at eating, but they're also massive. Like we mentioned earlier, they are the biggest amphibian in North America. So they just started eating everything else, very similar to our friend the starling. So I have come to the same conclusion that I did in episode one,
Mm.
which is that it's not the bullfrog's fault. The bullfrog did not go out west. The bullfrog was very happy staying here in the east. It was this guy who said, I don't like bugs. It's his fault. It's not the starling's fault either. It's bardolatry. I don't know. Ryan, you're actually like a professional animal person, kind of, certainly in the environment, ecologically. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's unfair when you have an invasive species on the same continent. You know, doesn't that just feel like
Yeah.
dirty? Like, come on. You're telling me like the ones that I'm familiar with are like the red-eared sliders or whatever that are
Mm.
native down in Florida or maybe not Florida, maybe it's Texas. I don't know. And then
That's a
they've
type of
made their
turtle for all
way.
you non-herpers out there.
Oh, yes, yes, I should clarify. I forgot I'm on a birding podcast here. But yeah, and you know, now they're just up north and they're having a party. But it's like, how are you wreaking havoc? You know, like I literally can like see your house, you know, like what is, and then it's true of plants too. People are moving all sorts of like locust trees, and then people freak out. They're like, you know, that's only native one state away. It's like, well, yeah, and sure, it's wreaking havoc and it is invasive, but like, can't we just like, isn't he chill? You know, he's just like a
Yeah.
tree that's just growing, you know, like, so it's just unfair, you know. That's my thought on that. Other than that, you know, same thing has been done with cane toads, I think, in Australia. We're not really learning our lesson yet. Actually, I take that back. I think we've learned our lesson about biological control and properly taking the time to vet those decisions. You know, I think we're getting a little bit better at least. We're not just having a ton of fun and just releasing the whole food chain to tackle one problem after another. So props to us.
Yeah, props to us. I'm gonna not tell Ryan about the 22 cans I have in the bathroom here that I'm about to release in Philly. Just don't worry about
I
that.
mean, toucans, South America, North America, both Americas, as far as I care, you know, that's like they're here, you know. We had a native parrot species. Our toucans are
We
not
did.
parrots, right?
No.
No, no. But
Uh,
parrots are a big, I don't know anything about
Carolina
parrots.
parakeet, I believe.
Parakeet. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've heard it here first from a professional animal person, as I said earlier, Ryan's official title.
That's true.
Bullfrogs did nothing wrong. Starlings did nothing wrong. Those turtles did nothing wrong either. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being on the pod. This was amazing. Our first ever guest.
Yeah.
Well, Rochelle was a guest, I guess, but she's like part of the pod.
Yeah, this was great.
This was a blast. I had so much to
Yeah.
say. I always have so much to say. None of it's coherent or cohesive, but man, I could talk about this for hours. So
Hey,
yeah,
you're on the right podcast then.
When I go birding tomorrow, I might flip over a rock or something.
Yeah.
Hopefully, well,
A piece of
maybe a
bark.
piece of
Piece of
bark.
bark's probably
Maybe
best.
no salamanders nowadays,
Yeah.
but in the summer, I'll do it.
yeah. Once springtime comes, you got to be careful though, because if you start flipping bark and logs, you might get into herping and never look back. Tread
I think
lightly,
there's room for both. I think there's room for both. Ryan,
especially in the
before you
winter.
go, got any just like herping fun facts for us? Like lay down a bar.
Herping fun facts. Hey, we live in a wonderful world. Most people don't know anything about amphibians. Most people don't know that they are the class of vertebrates that are most at risk of going extinct across all taxa. We don't know this. Most people, we don't know our local wildlife. I'm just now getting into plants. Just if you're listening, go get outside. Just go walk, get Seek on your phone. Go walk out to a stupid little plant. Use Seek and ID it, and just start learning. Just get outside. Just start learning stuff because you'll be surprised at potentially, or at least that's what happened to me, is the profound effect that can have and how far that can take you. Because you'll start to care more about where you're actually living. So yeah, just start learning about them. You'll be fascinated.
Great. You heard it here first on the Birds Are Real podcast from Ryan Mayer, professional animals person.
It's true.
Touch grass.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. Touch
that's
grass,
it.
intertwined with your local soil.
Great. So that was a really fun main topic. Really fun to have a guest on the pod.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We should have more guests.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's time for our closing caw section, but it's a little special this time. To introduce it is producer Richelle.
Hey guys, I've gathered a myriad of bird calls from all of you. Thank you so much for sending in these calls. The way it's going to work is it's going to be a Jeopardy-style quiz where I will play a bird call, and then whoever feels like they know the answer to this question will make a little sound. Please show the listeners the little sound you're going to make.
Beep.
Could you tell which was which? So the score right now, as I understand it, is 8-6. Keisha's up.
Okay. I'm glad I have a little bit of a buffer here
Yeah.
because when it comes to birding, my brain, I feel like it works, but it works slowly. So this Jeopardy style could be in your favor here.
When it comes to birding, my brain doesn't work, but it does that really quickly. So
Nice.
we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, hopefully this is not too embarrassing for our grand finale.
Yeah.
Here's the first call.
Beep. I don't know. It was sounding kind of grindy, geary to me. I'm gonna say maybe common grackle.
No.
No.
Oh, okay. I got a rebuttal now.
I feel like you can ask to listen to it again since I got it wrong if you want to.
I could also play a different variation of the call if you would like.
Wow. Yeah, please do. Okay. My answer, and the only reason I'm going to give this answer is because I'm going to be so embarrassed if it's not and I didn't guess it. American woodcock.
No.
I don't know, dude. It sounds small. It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Because of that, I might just say song sparrow.
Yellow warbler.
Oh, that would have been my other
This
guess.
is getting embarrassing.
This is getting pretty bad.
We've seen it at John Hines recently. Also, this bird call was sent in specifically for you, Sam.
Oh, is it a cedar waxwing?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's 8-7. I've gained a point here. I only needed like 3 hints to do it. So,
Great start, great start.
Wait.
all right, round 2. Is it an emu?
Close.
Ostrich.
Yes.
All right.
Jeopardy style back and forth has its
This is
perks.
going real well. This is going to be fun for you to edit,
I
Sam.
know. God.
So now we're at 9-7, going into the third call,
Round 3.
round 3.
Okay, here we go.
Beep. I'll go with Carolina Wren.
No.
European starling.
No.
Northern Perula.
No.
Scarlet Tanager.
Yes.
Dude, I also thought Scarlet Tanager.
Oh my god. Okay.
All right, back up to 8-9.
This one I think you're actually gonna get.
Okay.
We've gotten all of these so far.
Mind you.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
Red-winged blackbird.
Yes.
Oh, you're right. Dang
Great
it.
job.
That's it. Okay,
Perfect.
you're right. That was a classic one. Oh, we're all tied up now. 9-9.
Tied up 9-9.
Going on to call 5. Beep. Eastern Meadowlark.
No.
Ooh, okay. Blackbird.
No.
So I'm going to save you all some pain with this one. Keisha and I went back and forth about 10 times guessing birds, couldn't get a single thing right. Richelle had to break it down for us, and it's obvious, of course. It was a hummingbird. So,
Yeah, the fluttering of the wings and the call now I can hear. And,
yep. I
that
forgot
was-
that those were real birds. I forgot they existed.
Yep. Once we were really down in the hole there, Richelle just said very small, and we both knew what it was.
So we're moving past that one. That
Yeah,
one's
let's
a
forget- let's
scratch.
forget- let's forget
It's
about
a
that
wash. Still 9-9.
Yep. With 4 left to go.
Here's the thing. The problem is it sounds like a bullfrog. But no, I've
Shout out
heard this.
Ryan.
I've heard this so many times. I've heard this so many times. I know what it is. I don't know. I'm not gonna get a guess, so I'm just gonna say cattle egret.
Okay. The thing is, Sam did get it correct. I was just really enjoying watching him struggle. It is a bullfrog.
Someone actually sent in a bullfrog. That is actually hilarious.
Wow.
There you have it.
And with Ryan on the episode.
I know the person who sent this in didn't even know what this episode was gonna be about.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, let's bring it up a notch. You ready?
Wait.
10-9.
Yes, 10-9. Sam's up
I'm
with
in the lead. I'm in the lead for the first time all season.
I'm choking super hard right now, and it's to a bullfrog. Beep. American goldfinch?
No.
No.
But you're not far off.
Well,
House finch.
Yes.
All right.
Great job. Finally, one that wasn't terribly painful.
11-10 or 11-9.
yeah, now I can only tie it.
Wow.
I've really lost the plot here. I've never heard this before.
Beep.
Yeah.
Or, this kind of sounds whippoorwill-esque to me,
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
what I
gonna
was-
say, but it's not the whippoorwill because I know that for sure. I think it's a common nighthawk.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard this thing before. I also thought it sounded similar to the whippoorwill. Thinking of wingspan birds in the grassland, dude. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is it in
It is a
wingspan?
wingspan bird in the grassland.
Oh boy.
Northern bobwhite.
Yes.
All right. Wow.
That's crazy.
We went on a journey with that one.
Yeah, we're probably going to cut out a lot of the deliberation there.
Yeah.
Richelle ended up giving us hints,
A wingspan-based hints.
wingspan-based hints, like how many eggs it can lay, what
Habitat.
habitat it lived in. So we didn't really get it from the call. We got it from the wingspan facts.
Well, still works out. All right.
Okay,
So
ready?
10-11.
Final call.
Final
No,
call.
there's 2 more.
2 more.
Oh, never mind.
wow.
I,
Okay.
I was mistaken. I thought I could only tie it.
Okay. 10-11.
But if Sam gets this one, he clinches it,
Yep.
basically.
Little blue heron.
No.
If I don't guess this and it ends up being it, I'm going to be mad. So I'm going to say great horned owl.
No.
Northern saw-whet owl.
No.
Snowy owl.
Yes.
Ooh.
Wow.
Another shout out that people didn't know. We talked about snowy owls
That's
with
true.
Ryan today.
Wow. What a coincidence here.
So
Okay.
Are you
well,
guys ready for the final
wait,
call?
hold on. It's 11-11.
Where it's 11-11 right now. Make a wish.
Oh my god. Okay, this one, I think you're gonna need to be on your buzzers for this one.
Okay.
Oh my god. It's
Okay.
it's a speed round.
Ready?
Yep.
Set.
Mhm.
Go.
If this is the finale, should we like both send one into Richelle?
Ooh, it's like Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, like type one in at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. In a shocking turn of events, we have come to a tie.
Did we both get it right or both get it wrong?
You both got it right.
You also guess Cackling Goose?
Cackling Goose.
Nice. A little anticlimactic there. Should we do another tiebreaker?
Final tiebreaker. This can be a bird that has been played for a closing caw. Just whoever says buzz fastest.
Yeah.
Red-tailed hawk, baby.
Yay! Good job, everybody. You really did so good.
Oh, sorry. I meant bald eagle, actually.
Even if I buzzed in at the right time, I would have guessed blue jay, which is kind of
Hey,
right.
That's kind of right.
This all circles back.
It all comes full circle.
To the original.
Because, Keish, did you know the bald eagle sound that they play in movies? It's actually the red-tailed hawk.
Well, now I know. Now I know in a very painful way.
Yeah.
I'm like the 2016 Golden State Warriors.
Yep. Lost a 3-1 lead.
Lost a 8-6 lead going into the final stretch. Hey, that's birding for you.
Hey, good game.
Good game. Yeah.
For those at home who listened to this and it took like 10 minutes, this took us over an hour to record.
Hey, check this out though. I'll be back
Yeah.
in season 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll know every single bird call.
We'll have time to actually study.
Yeah.
We'll be so much better at this next year.
That's true.
Well, there we go. Season 1 in the books.
Hope you guys enjoyed the ride.
Thanks, everyone, for all your support along the way. Can't believe people actually listen to this thing still.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun during this break in between season 1 and 2. We'll get a lot of birding in, get a lot of ideas
Yeah.
from within ourselves, and also you guys can send us more ideas, anything you want to hear.
Yeah, please keep sending in ideas. Keep sending in emails. Hoot topics or main topics, anything you want to know about birds. That's great. Keep an eye on our socials. We may be doing some non-podcast things in the meantime. Don't want to promise anything because we might not do anything. But yeah, the break will only last a little bit. It's not going to be like a full year. You don't have to wait till next September or whatever. But
Yeah.
we'll make some announcements when this is coming on.
And
I don't think I need to include that.
An indefinite amount of time, but not super long, so don't get too sad.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This podcast is done.